Fans speak where the plan runs deep. The team grind hard, don't eat, don't sleep. From best ball dreams to DFS streaks, they help you print money every single week. No cap, no gimmicks, we breaking limits. NFL bets, yeah, we live this business. Name and Steve, that OG vision. Draft room killers on a lifelong mission. More stress to the Sunday spread. Fan speaks, that voice that's inside your head. Best ball, DFS, NFL bets. They built it brick by brick, no regrets. Fan speak team, printing money since day one. Fan speak, forever.
Welcome back to another episode of Talking Ball Steve-O Speak. We are back. It is actually today is the start of free agency. 4 p.m. is when it kicks off. We will be on for at least a couple hours. Maybe we'll get to the 4 p.m. mark. Depends on how many likes and everything we get. Speaking of which, if you're first time here or you enjoy watching, hit that subscribe button. We appreciate that. We want to get those numbers up. We want to get over 1,000 subs. We will then do a 24-hour live stream. So I need to get into training for that, but looking forward to it. This is going to be, I think a wild year with free agency, draft. Should be great best ball time. So looking forward to hanging out all year long with everyone. Let me hit up chat before we get into anything. We got Mike Robb. So anything big happened last night. Mike Robb, the Ravens fan. The Ravens, we will get into the Crosby trade. We got Megan here. We got Aiden checking in. Crosby fallout. Bam, 83 points. USA baseball and brink one of the greatest upset in history of sports. What else do you win in sports? Yeah, the Bam Bayou 83-point game. We got Jamie in here. No more Steve emojis. Sorry, Jamie. And we got Mike Robb showing off. But no, I appreciate it. Appreciate everyone being in here. Thanks everyone for all the support. We will, get into it. There's other news today. I think I'm going to start off with a little board. This can take a little longer to fill, so I'm going to jump into this first, and then we'll talk it through. Hopefully we can get this filled. I only have a couple more to do, only 2 more to do. Then most of these slow. But it's kind of stagnated a bit in terms of fill rate. It's only at 47%, whereas the big board is at about 61%. So let's get this filled up. I'm going to entering in 10 seconds. Entering in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Enter. Let's see how close we are to filling this. Okay. Just waiting on 2 more. This could fill soon. Oh, wow. This could fill very quickly. I expected a little bit of time to talk about everything. Yeah, the Max Crosby news last night, absolutely wild. About 9 o'clock, 8:30, 9 o'clock Eastern time, it comes out that the Ravens backed out of the trade, and then it comes out they failed the physical, and you just have all sides, like multiple teams would have failed them with the physical because they're independent doctors, including the Cowboys doctor, which is interesting since they were one of the top teams in the trade discussions. And then it's like, what happens from there? At the same time, it's also reported that the Ravens knew full well the entire prognosis of Max Crosby. And so just the 11th hour moment is very odd. As for what happens, not much, the league could do, the Raiders can do, no like real grievances you can file, but probably not seeing many moves happening between the Ravens and Raiders anytime soon, would be my guess. And, and Max Crosby right now goes back to the Raiders. This doesn't really impact their free agency side of plans because they had so much money. They spent a lot yesterday or the last couple of days. They still can afford Crosby and everything. Just kind of slows down what they can do from here on out. I think the bigger thing is they're planning on that 14th overall pick. They need young assets. They need a future value. So Raiders could try and restart trade talks with other teams, but I doubt any of the teams offering 2 first rounders, even if Crosby does get cleared. If anything, I think a trade kind of You might get more buzz closer to the draft time, closer to during the summer if it passes that window. So yeah, I think that's where the Raiders are at with Max Crosby, but there still will likely be a market later on. I mean, not every team out there is getting the pass rushers they want. So that is 100% sure. And then from the Ravens side, you see they act quickly and sign Trey Hendrickson, which, for them is good, but it doesn't have a great PR look. That they signed Hendrickson 10 hours after, canceling the Crosby deal. So it's going to make things interesting. There's going to be some frustration there, and not just from the Raiders, from other teams who, kind of like who wanted Hendrickson, who wanted Crosby, but then moved on because they had to make other moves with just the start of tampering period. And for the other thing with the Ravens is they get the first round pick back, and I think we're going to see that. Very likely be in the mix for a wide receiver. Obviously, a few other directions they could go, maybe a corner, but I think wide receiver has to be at the top of their wish list. And we could see maybe a Tyson there or somebody like that. I think the other side for the Ravens comes down to, and this should be noted, is they are, they obviously got out of the Tyler Linderbaum thing. They still spent a lot of money on Hendrickson, but they did have to sit out the first kind of day of free agency. So maybe there were some other moves that they would have been interested in, or retaining some of their guys that went to all these other teams. So you do wonder if they still have a little buyer's remorse of how they handled this. All right, I didn't see anyone in here that I recognize. If you are in here, please let me know. Let me make this pick and then I'll get back to chat. And then we will talk about some of the other big news, and I think just more on how this free agency, these ADPs should be shifting. I'll take Drake here. So we see Kenneth Walker move up to 16. That has been pretty much the case since the signing. Mike saying Bam's 83 is fraudulent. I'll be honest, I didn't watch the game, so I didn't really just, on Twitter and everything. Aiden saying I got another 5 drafts in me. I feel like, here's the tough thing. I only have about 60 big boards left. This is my second to last little board. I'm running out of drafts for these streams. Need Underdog to release something else. I think this is key. The little board max of 20 entries is the big factor why it's not filling. Especially since last year, this was a 50 max. I did my first 3 or 4 without realizing that it was only a 20 max. So, them not making that, I know it's right there. It shows 20 max, but I think, maybe when they announced it, they could have made things maybe even more clear. Would have helped, because I've heard this from a lot of people where they just jumped in, were ripping little boards right away, and then it took a day or 2 or a week before they realized it's only a 20 max. I'll take the Nico fall. We got Stephen WC in here. Good afternoon. Got Paulino in here. Oh, you're at 11. Nice. I always forget you are a heavy hitter. Okay. Appreciate that. We got Hartman in here. Mike saying, need to update the mock again. Yeah, I'm probably probably going to update it next week after the full week of free agency and trades and stuff. We got Fantasy Dog in here with the 9th like. I appreciate that. Any chance Jeremiah Love falls to the Ravens? Henry's an old man. No, I don't think they're looking to replace Henry. Henry's still at the top of his game. They're going to ride with him. So I don't, even if he were to fall, I don't think there's any shot that the Ravens make that move. Every year we keep saying this is Henry's last year. And this very well could be, but I still don't think the Ravens would make that move. We got Paul, and you all have drafts left. Yeah, Paul is famously already done. I know there's others out there who already finished, so he's just waiting. Just do the non-tournament drafts. Yeah. I'm hoping Underdog will release something else. I mentioned with baseball, and I get it's different. They've had their bunt is their $3, and they're on their 4th one, and it was much smaller, so they fill. But they filled 4 of those, and they all, at the same time they're on their 2nd big elim and little eliminator. Again, smaller sizes, but when you add it all together, plus they did a $5 draft, might have been one other one, and they have some higher dollar stuff as well. But all this to go along with their flagship dinger, which is, I think, probably tracking to fill, doing pretty well. But and I get it's different. That's their main season versus this is the early season best ball. Baseball does an early season best ball as well, but it's much different. So I don't know. It's weird to me. If I was Underdog, I would, even if it's not another little board, do a the baseball is, I think, is a $5 tournament. I mean, that will fill in a couple days. Just seems like easy money. Yeah, the big board, little board 2 being released 2 days before. Let me make this pick. I don't have a lot of Mbuka. I was lower on him because I thought there was a real chance Mike Evans would be back. I'll take the shot here. It's not moving up too far yet. I personally like Devonta and Devontae above him, and even Terry McLaurin, and even Mike Evans, who's still on the board. But I'll take an Mbuka share here because I want some of them. I actually think Chris Godwin might be the biggest winner of the Evans exit. He's veteran and now more than a full year removed from injury. So hopefully he's back. He should operate mostly out of the slot, which can just be easier, fun targets, and he's just very good at it. He and Baker, had showed a real connection 2 years ago before Godwin got injured, and also just his ADP is so low. So even if he's not wide receiver 1 on Tampa, but there's just so likely that he can surplus, be a surplus value guy, and more valuable than the guys going around him. Or even if Mbuka's Tampa's top receiver, is he better than McLaurin, Adams, Odunze, etc.? Maybe, but I think it's hardly a guarantee. Ladies first takes Evans. That's where I would have gone. Yeah, we'll do Jalen Waddle. I do think I said this a little the other day, and definitely with Whoheams yesterday when I was on stream breaking down some of these free agent moves. I think the Malik Willis thing is actually very good for Waddle. Waddle has vertical threat ability. Willis has better arm, and I was just worried that the Dolphins could be the team that gets maybe the worst or second worst quarterback in this free agent carousel, and they arguably get the best. Kyler probably, I think, is the best that I would rely on, but I think Waddle, not that I want to steam him up boards, but I think he's at least clickable now at ADP. I think a lot of people are playing baseball and golf. Yeah, no, I think that's part of it. Is their calculus is we want to fill. It's not just filling up like the little board and stuff like this. I think they're like, baseball closes in a couple weeks, like in 13 days, maybe. I'd have to look, 14 days. The Albatross closes at the Masters. So I do think they want to fill those up. I know they got, I think, a March Madness tournament, right? So I'm sure it's not just for their football calculus, but at the same time, so maybe particularly after baseball fills and right around the Masters time, we could see like a $5 tournament, because they should know that that'll fill very quickly, like that $5 5 max, like I mentioned. Plus, we don't know. I actually don't think they're cutting back drafts. I mean, there's been some, not cryptic, but tweets about that. I think it's what I've kind of said is they are cutting. I think they're more likely to just cut back on the innovation, the different types of games. And I do worry. I hope it doesn't mean like they're totally out on something like marathon or sprint or stuff like that, because they didn't fill last year. And, I could see them scaling it back. I could see them, I think they should lower the price point. Like, I never understood why you had those at $15 and $20, but you had weekly winners in Eliminator at $10. Like, they should all be $10, I felt like, because it wasn't an accurate way to compare, like, oh, this is filling faster. But it's like, well, yeah, you could do 2 limbs for the price of 1 sprint. So yeah, I think a lot of people are gonna, appeal to that, and it's also then like, the cost of 2 puppies for one limb or 1 weekly winner is one thing, but the cost of 3 or 4 puppies, people start doing that math, I feel like. So I always thought they all should have been the exact same price point. I'm still guessing the limb would have filled quicker, the weekly winners would have filled quicker. It's odd to me, since those 2 tournaments, and I have nothing against those tournaments as a whole, but those 2 tournaments are definitively far weaker in ROI. But they just they build pretty crazily fast. So I'm hoping, maybe they scale back, like I said, for those other types of formats. I'm going to take Pierce here. And as you can see, I'm kind of going to just push quarterback. I'm not even considering stacks. That's kind of my intention for this draft. Pierce, not only does Pierce retain staying with the Colts, where he was very good last year, but they also move, A, they pay him big money, but B, they move Pittman out. Pierce has never cracked 100 targets. He had 80 some last year. I think 100 targets is his floor now. And I think more 110, 120, 125. I think he's going to be pushing like Puka and JSN for 160, 170 now. But 120, 125, yeah, I think that's very possible, particularly with no Michael Pittman. We've just seen total growth to his game. And like some of those extra targets will probably end up help lower his yards per catch, which have been insane these last 2 years, 21 and 22 these last 2 years. But, he'll still be very, very good up there. Really hope AJ Brown is traded. Every hour that goes by feels less likely. Yeah. My thing with this is it's a weird situation, because as I mentioned, trading him before June 1st incurs just a massive, massive cap penalty for the Eagles. And they're not a team that's exactly flush with cash as is. So that has to be one incredibly sweet offer to get that done, I feel like. After June 1st, and then it's the catch-22. If you wait till after June 1st, you're not getting probably assets that are helping you this year. And for the Eagles, that doesn't make sense. If this was the Raiders, let's say the Raiders wait till after June 1st to trade Max Crosby because it gives more time for him to heal from this meniscus repair, all that, like, so they can maybe get a more quote-unquote accurate physical and prognosis. Like from Raiders, yeah, would they probably wish they could add that 14th overall pick this year? Absolutely. Because they know what it is. Like, you trade him anywhere, and even if it's a bad team, even if, as Paul said in Discord, the Browns do the funniest thing and they trade for, use those picks for Max Crosby. He meant this year's picks, but if it was like next year, like, maybe the Browns go on a run. Like, I don't think anyone thought the Jags pick was going to be this late, right? We'll take Rico here. So now we need to start looking quarterback. Dart fell. I should have, but I was kind of doing an exercise, like first 8 rounds, no quarterback, no tight end. Wanted to see what I could get. And so knowing that certainty of what the pick is, 14 is something I'm sure the Raiders wanted. But the other side of it, for like, the Raiders could still make that trade in July, because future picks still probably align with their timeline much, much more. People would trade Brown to the Patriots and select Omar P. Cooper as his replacement. Yeah, nice. Has there been substantial Tyler Warren movement? Feels like he is the massive winner. I haven't seen much movement on him. If FK's in here, he's been really tracking that. I don't know if he has any data on that. But I do agree. Like, I think he, even more than Downs, is the biggest winner. I think it helps Pierce. I think it helps Warren. I think it helps Downs. But Warren probably the most, because they were just competing for so many of the same targets. And whoever they bring in is another receiver, whether it's like worst case scenario Ashton Dolan, or it's some rookie, or some cheap free agent. It's just not going to be the same. So Dart falls back. This is an interesting fall on Jackson Dart. No stack. I don't care. That feels really good. I'm surprised. Because the Giants, they retained Ellen Manor, so they retained their one of their best offensive linemen last year, and they bring in another weapon. Willis to Waddle could be lethal. Yeah, no, I think that could be fun. It's not that I, again, think Jalen Waddle should fly boards, but I think he's now at least feels more clickable. Let's see, we got a Hulk Smash in here. We got Lo Simone here. Good to see you guys. I'm doing a little board to start. Actually filled much quicker than I thought it would. So we're in that to start, but just talking things through. Steve, weekly winner sucks. Mike head shoots down, sees one data to try and find an edge. Well, I actually profited pretty well in weekly winners last year. I think I did 24 teams, and I think I profited over $500. So, I more than doubled my money. Fortunately, I have plenty of ways I would make weekly winners better, flattening the payout and things of that nature. But and honestly, if any of those contests should cost like $20 or more, it should be weekly winners, because it's essentially 17 different contests, and you're paying $10. So you're paying less than $1 per contest that you get in. But then you still want to have a top prize of $20K each week. That's just a tough sell, a tough way to do it. And I think that's why it's so tough to not just cash, which is tough, but to profit, because unless you're in the top like 20, 50 spots, you're not really making much money. I do think it can be an interesting contest. It's just, I wish they would change the payout structure and or the entry fee. I know they'd never do it, but they should make it $17. Why not? It's $1 a week. I know they then take their, like cut on that. I think that would make the most sense. Ooh, don't do a lot of Blake Corum, but that's a little fall. I think I am going to pull up Willis, though. I now know I can, what a Willis stack is. And I do think this is, we're going to even see him go up higher and higher. So taking him here now feels really good. We got Huhames in here. Good to see you, Huhames. Huhames and I did a 2+ hour show yesterday, breaking down all the free agency signings and news. So it was really good. Definitely recommend everyone watching that on his channel if you haven't already. They goofed with low board being close to the size of the big board while having it be 20 max. Yeah, should have done. I agree. Like it would have, like I said, the baseball approach. Not sure if you're here for that. Baseball has done 4 bunts, and they're much smaller. Don't get me wrong, but you could have made the little board 50K, and it would already the first one to be filled, I believe. And because I'm sure there's people who have 4 left, 5 left, maybe even 10 left, and they just wanted to wait. They wanted to. You entice them to wait for to get closing line value. Yeah. I think it's just such a tough sell to trade them before June 1st. Disbanded's in here with the dot. Hope you're doing well. Disbanded. Warren wasn't moved, but all the other tight ends are moving down. Yeah, that's true. I think the other reason other tight ends are moving down is because now we got the news. Kelsey's back. We have the likely landing spot. I think those things help. Same with some of these quarterbacks, and that might be why Dart fell a little bit. Is now at least we can at least theoretically draft a Jets starting quarterback now. I think I'll take Baker. I took Mbuka. Why not take Baker? It's around past 80 value, and that might very well be where he settles in. But that, I think that's fine. I think some of the Baker probably should take a little bit of a hit with no Mike Evans. I mean, he's clearly been his best weapon. IO Scoop Steve. Scoop and value. I absolutely stink at weekly winners, but I just hope they do bring back. Yeah, all at the $10 price point makes the most sense. Don't call me the Baltimore Ravens because I won't back out of watching FanSpeak Network. Weekly winners $50 with the small field would be good. Yeah, I could see like and same for Eliminator. Like they did a big elim. Now that was like the old format, which is probably the best way to do it. But yeah, like a big weekly winners, small field. Yeah, that would make more sense. But it's the tough thing for weekly winners and Eliminator is if you're a max enter, it to me, it's harder to pay off your value. Like I said, I did really well. I can pull that up at some point. I had like 3 straight weeks where I was in the top, definitely in the top 200, and like 1 in the top 100, 1 in the top 150, and I only made like $500. Would I have been, would I have really hit that many more top 250 to top 100 type hits if I max entered? Probably not. Like I would have more min cashes and more like $15 cashes for sure, but I don't know if I'm hitting that many more in the top. I finally found a true skunk leaning phenotype after searching for one. Okay. I love the idea of weekly winners, but I also suck at it. Spent like 50. Yeah, that's my whole point. Is the payout structure is, I think, out of whack. I'll take Connor here. I know he's falling a little bit, but I actually like him quite a bit. I mentioned this, and there's a members only show of my thoughts on the free agent breakdown. And I think the Connor Algier thing is one to watch. And it's not necessarily to say that Connor definitively outscores Algier. It's just I think he is more live to outscore his lead back than say most other situations out there. And even if it's close, like you probably want Connor at his 60 spot ADP discount. Because Algier, I like him, and I think he could, he will be the quote unquote lead back, but I think it could just be very close of a split, and especially like Connor racking it up on the passing game side. So I want both, but Connor at ADP feels pretty good. So Mendoza's falling. Makes sense with some of the news that he might not start right away. Could go McMillan here. Andrews, I love. Goddard is nice. Might go running back. I like Mike Washington Jr. Definitely don't like Trey Benson. But I'm set at quarterback. Receiver, McMillan, I think is good in this range. Hunter, Omar Cooper, I think are fine in this range. Keyshawn Booty. Okay, McMillan goes. I will take Likely. I don't know if he gets back to me. I don't think he gets back to me. He's been moving up. Maybe he would have gotten back to me, but I took Dart, got the fall there. Let me stack him with Likely. Hartman, man, I'm too broke for that. Well, I mean, it's not to say you have to do it. It's just like it could be a better way to approach it. You win comment of the day. Yeah. I'm too Mike. Let me stop me. I just want to respectfully scold you for making every draft a race to get 3 quarterbacks. Every draft I've been in, one team leaves with only 1 starting quarterback. Well, that is, quarterback is a much more zero-sum game than any other position. There's only so many starters, and particularly right now with even situations like the Cardinals and even the Falcons, we can't truly know. Well, I think Tua is at least more draftable now than he was 5 days ago. And same with Jacoby Brissett. I don't, feel great about any of them. I will hold onto the original Gorilla Glue 4 cut. ADP chasing gang was staunchly Algier over Connor. How many times does he have to teach them this season? Again, it's not that I'm completely opposed to the idea that Algier could be the better back than Connor. And it's one of these things, particularly if they keep their current ADPs, they could both pay off. Where's tight end at? No. We'll take him. Forgot to re-upload my rankings. I need to do that after this draft. But if they're both at the current ADPs, they could very well easily both pay off. It's just I think Connor has the better chance for more surplus value. Where I can't see. Connor is going as RB 42. He could easily, even without Algier being bad, hit that value. And if Algier, is just not what everyone's projecting him out to be, could Connor be a top 30 running back? Absolutely. Could he be top 25? Yeah. I think those are real outcomes, just given his touchdown upside, passing game upside. And up until last year with the injury, I mean, he's just been such a great points per game runner. And I get he's a year older, totally get that. But it feels like we're treating it like I think when he's being taken in the 140s and I've seen him go in the 150s sometimes, it's being treated like there's almost zero chance that he's, 80% of the runner that he was a couple years ago. And I understand opportunities might be, are also a factor. But there's just a real chance that he ends up being the team's high scoring runner. And people don't treat it that way. He's in a section of these other runners have no chance outside of like maybe Jonathan Brooks, maybe Aaron Jones if he gets the landing spot. So speaking of, I think I'm going to go with, don't have a lot of Jonathan Brooks. But, so far, Carolina hasn't added a running back. Sounds like it's going to be Hubbard, Brooks, ETN. They're not going to be in a position to take Jeremiah Love. Maybe in the second or third round, they look to add a running back. But I'll take some Brooks shares in these like 160s, 170s. Did see we'll get to the Aaron Jones news in a second. This is true, but it's also, it does guarantee him, I think it guarantees him at least the number 2 role. And had they gone out and signed, like what the Saints did and signed ETN, then it's like, okay, maybe there's trouble. But they signed Algier, who is a very similar runner. And also, Algier doesn't have a big passing game role. So he's very likely to retain that. I think Benson is the one who just gets totally nuked. New staff. Benson's had 2 years. Has been relatively underwhelming and also very injured. And it's just a brand new staff. Yes, the staff doesn't have ties to Connor, but they know Connor has succeeded at this in the league for a long time and faced off against them, faced off against the Rams, etc. So, yeah, I just think it's not a lock, but I would be surprised if Connor's not the number 2 back. And just because Algier, it's not guaranteed that he's just going to dominate, because it's not like his contract is dramatically high either. Would you take a little ETN? I've considered it. I haven't done it yet. I kind of worry that they're going to take a back in the draft. Let's make this pick here. I will go Trey Tucker. Even with the Naylor news, I think Tucker is fine at this ADP. So if this is the running back room after the draft, I would recommend taking some ETN. Just with Brooks' 2 serious injuries, Hubbard, we definitely saw a decline in his play last year. Maybe he bounces back, but I just think the door is much more open, and an ETN could just carve out a passing role, because Hubbard is not great in that area. It's actually pretty thin in that area, so I could see that as ETN's most likely path. Like if Brooks is just not there, not 100%. But ETN, that was kind of his strong suit in college. So it wouldn't shock me to see that. Little ETN, big heart. Yeah. The big news today, Daniel Jones resigns. I think that should help move the quarterback market when Murray and Cousins are officially free agents later today. Does one of them quickly sign with the Vikings? That'll be interesting. Murray, seemingly the more likely one. Do the Browns get involved? Do the Cardinals now get involved? Again, those reports that Brissett is the starter were not the most ringing of endorsements. So perhaps they sign one of them, not Kyler, but Kirk Cousins, and then trade Brissett, and then it's Cousins and Minshew. So let's go. Let's see if we can get both of them. I'll take Gunnar Helm first. So I wouldn't put that totally off the table, but yeah, things are not looking as strong for Cousins to find a starting role. It's basically down to Cleveland, Arizona, or Minnesota for him. And from Kyler, it's kind of Cleveland or Minnesota. That isn't great. Yeah, no, I agree. Best ball and call. Like if Minnesota goes Kyler, then Kirk, it's really just down to Cleveland and maybe opening up Arizona again. Other than that, I think he's settling for a backup role. Now, I think he would have a very strong market. Like I think he could kind of choose his team there. Jones fit with the Colts would be at least there. Staking with that said, this feels like it is possible being a Giants contract situation. Yeah, that was a lot of money, almost all guaranteed or big chunk guaranteed. Incentives to make it like 50 million, essentially 50 million a year. Yeah, big contract, but Jones kind of had the Colts. What could the Colts do? Particularly after they trade away picks for like Sauce Gardner and stuff, give Alec Pierce this big deal. Like maybe they could have gone the Kyler route, but that was about it. All right, tight end got picked over. We'll take some Kyle Williams. I think Kyle Williams is, one of Kyle Williams or Boudet is probably going to be pretty fantasy relevant this year. Kyle Williams is essentially free, so that helps. But I definitely need to start taking more of both of them. Actually, Kirk, he's almost guaranteed to be signing one of these minimum deals, similar to what Tua did, and what Kyler will do for a year. He's looking where can I get the most opportunity to play? Maybe he'd be willing to back up for a ring. But yeah, it's not. Things I think closed fast with the Falcons. Not that Kirk was going back there, but you would have said maybe Kyler goes to the Falcons. With the Falcons going with the Tua route, with the Jets going with this Geno and maybe Carson Wentz route, things kind of closed up fast. And then especially, and that's why the Cardinals move is so shocking if they just stick with Brissett and Gardner Minshew, because actually they could trade away Brissett, sign Kirk for the league min, and they actually save money that way. Market consensus appears Kyler to the Vikings, Cousins fall back to the Steelers. I agree. I do agree. Like he's probably a fallback there for the Steelers if Rodgers doesn't come back. Yeah, I mean, I think in certain circumstances he could take a backup role. Obviously there's a lot of ties out there to the McVay tree. The Shanahan McVay tree. He's very familiar with that. So I'd be kind of shocked if he totally sits out if one of those backup positions become available, particularly if, like Jimmy Garoppolo is a free agent and hasn't re-signed with the Rams. Maybe Cousins says, okay, I'll back up Stafford, and then Stafford, an older quarterback, anything happens to him, I can fill in and have a shot for the Super Bowl. And then if Stafford retires after this year and Cousins wants to keep playing, Cousins is a couple years younger than Stafford, maybe McVay would try and run it back with Cousins. I mean, I know that's not as fun for people. I get that. But that would be a least possibility. So those would be the rare examples, but yeah. guy coming off a major injury. Hopefully it works out. Yeah, for Daniel Jones. If Kyler goes to Minnesota, Kirk goes in the barn. Kirk already mentioned that. There's a report that Pittsburgh is interested. Yeah, I do agree. Pittsburgh becomes a logical fallout. I think they want a veteran. I mean, we just saw, they're in it to win it this year. They're trained for Michael Pittman, extending him, bringing in Rico Dowdle. They have an older defense. Like, they're going to try and keep this contending window open for sure. Though the Cardinals would be best fit for Cousins, or was hoping for a mini reunion, doesn't appear likely. I still wouldn't rule out the Cardinals, just with the way they've handled things so far. Stuck between the rock and the hard place. Ballard has already been in the hot seat. Yeah, exactly. They're in the hot seat, and just when they're making the investments that they did, they have no chance of the draft situation. And here's the thing: like, even if they do the Kyler route and he goes off for him, then you have to pay him $50 million a year. And do we feel great about Kyler $50 million? So they might just, and that's somebody who, yes, at that point you would know the system and all that, but he'd have a year in the system. But if Kyler goes to the Vikings, goes to the Colts, and balls out, has a big year, he's going to get a massive, massive deal. So let's finish this out with a receiver. Nothing really fell. We'll take a Ted Hirsch shot. So finishing up this draft, let me catch up with chat. How did Pierce get that money? What was the thinking? I think the Colts knew that Pierce was going to have the most active market. What I think the Colts misread, and to an extent the Bills misread, is what the market would be for the next tier of receivers. Because this goes back to the Bills and DJ Moore. And I understand DJ Moore just, does certain things that not all these receivers I'm going to mention does. Like, he's more of a vertical deep threat. You don't see that with Pittman, Dobbs, Wandale, etc. But at the time of the trade, I knew Pierce was going to get, somewhere near the franchise level money. It was a little surprised how much he got, but I figured even Mike Evans was going to cost more than $20 million a year to get him away from Tampa. That was not the case. It was just $20 million a year. I thought Wandale would be over $20 million a year. I thought even Dobbs could maybe be around that 20 mark. And so it was like DJ Moore over those guys for the Bills. It's familiarity with Joe Brady. I think the one that stings for the Bills is Michael Pittman. He actually signs for less money, extension, and it was just a 6th, 7th round pick swap. So, and he's actually, I think, younger than DJ Moore. So that one, now Pittman and DJ Moore, while both outside receivers primarily, do different things. And Buffalo, I think, maybe did prioritize more vertical threat. And same thing for the Colts. Like, Colts knew, like, okay, we can let Pierce go and we still have Pittman, but we need that vertical threat. And where else are we going to get that? There's Rashid Shaheed was like the best other free agent option, like pure vertical, outside of Mike Evans, but I don't think Evans was going to the Colts. So, but Shaheed ended up signing for maybe a little less than expected. So I just think there was, the Colts were in a situation where they knew both these guys are going to get paid. We have to do something to retain them because our jobs are on the line. They can't lose both these guys. But yeah, I think it really sucks for them is the fallout of this with the way these contracts were, is they kind of had to trade Michael Pittman, who's still a really good player, for essentially nothing, just cap relief. And that's tough. Like, when you trade a player for, he's older, or you get a decent return, like, Max Crosby, yes, the Raiders would have been getting cap relief. And yes, it like resets their timeline to more align with, their future. But of course, the biggest part of that are the 2 first-round picks. Same with, even Micah Parsons and all these other things. It's the draft capital. Like you can say the Cowboys have reinvested that money in their other trades, in now George Pickens. So you can make all that same case for like the Cowboys. But the Colts, yes, they reinvest the Pittman money to lock up Pitts and Daniel Jones, but they get nothing of value in return for still a good player in this league. So I think that's like the toughest aspect of it, with how high both the Pierce and Jones markets were. Kirk will end up in KC to start the season. Yeah, that would be a good landing spot. Yeah, I mean, I've heard that. It's just so tough because what if those injuries are to bad teams? Like, I don't know. And it's just tough to come in. Like, I know Flacco, was traded and all that, but I'm not sure if he wants to wait. Funny how come would be Fields starting in Minnesota? Not for my Justin Jefferson bags. I mean, it'd be close to who I want, JJ McCarthy or Justin Fields. Yeah, exactly. 100%. Good old Philip Rivers. Logically, that's 100% true, but crazy to wrap my mind around it. Kyler gets had and has 1 year to prove himself. Let's say he does and has a great year, he'll be paid. Yeah, I mean, that's how the market is. Kyler in a great year and an oxymoron. All right, let's look at my team. We heavy hitter in here. He goes 3.683. I won't do a full team review, but just looking at the top, Jefferson, A-Chain, McMillan, Lad McConkey, and then Meg's guy, Cam Scattaboo. So that feels like a fun start. I'm more and more liking these starting, 3-2 or 2-3 running back receiver. As much as I love Josh Allen and even Lamar, I'm having a tough time taking them in the top 5 rounds of late, and definitely tight ends. I'm just like out on right now. All right. My team, 3.683, Dart, Willis, Baker Mayfield, got Fall on Dart and Mayfield. Took Willis technically ahead of ADP, but I think this is where he's going. JT, Swift, Dowdle, Connor, so like anchor running back, but came back with Swift, came back with Dowdle, who I think is good value. Talked a lot about James Conner, Emma Johnson, Jonathan Brooks taking some shots, but Emma Johnson we're obviously getting much later than we were a month ago. And even Jonathan Brooks, like his ADP had really moved up. I got a fall on him. But I love the core of this receiver room. London, Tua, I think helps give him a better floor. Nico, surprised he falls to the 29. Mbuka, Mbuka and Jalen Waddle, I think are just fairly priced right now. I don't love it, but I'll take some of each. And of course, get stacks there. So that felt good. Alec Pierce, I love his price now, especially going past ADP. I don't understand that, losing Pittman. Trey Tucker, Kyle Williams, Ted Hurst. So just taking some shots at the end there. Tight end went, later than I wouldn't necessarily like. Likely Helm, Gesicki. We're seeing that tier of tight ends start to move up, like Mark Andrews, like Kelsey, starting to move up a little bit. All right, let's check out Twitter, see if anything else is going on before we get into another draft. I appreciate you all for being here. If you haven't yet, definitely hit that subscribe button. Like I said earlier, we are trying to get to 1,000 subs. We are almost there, and we will do a 24-hour live stream after we do. So yeah, the other big news today: 49ers plan to release Brandon Ayuk. Could happen as soon as today. This is the shock to no one. The idea that anyone was going to trade for him, I think, was crazier. Just nobody's going to want to deal with that at his current contract. Hopefully he's not a Commander. I know that's where most people have him going. I do worry because I think that's one of those things that should be a prove it deal. Like, I don't know what that solves for you. So we will have to see what the fallout of that is. Jeff saying Kyle needs to be signed in a year where there's not a Call of Duty release. 0220 makes life a lot easier, but I like to keep mixing it up. Yeah. For me, it's more about the top 5 rounds, even 6 rounds, but top 5 rounds, how I handle those, is really what I like how to look at it. But I like how my team turned out with waiting as much as I did at quarterback. Ricard signing makes me more bullish on Scadaboo. Harbaugh trying to recreate what he had in Baltimore, and may view Scadaboo as his Derrick Henry. No, I actually think that. I think Likely also talked about with Uheems. Like, Likely's a better run blocker than people give him credit for. Bringing back Eleminor, that was a good offensive line, re-signing, because he was pretty good for them last year. So I think that helps him, and I think establishing a real running game is going to help Dart as well. Like, it's going to open things up for him. And of course, he said the magic words to Meg. But yeah, I think the Giants just, it just comes down to Jeremiah Love. We got JT in here. Steve-O, what's up, my guy? Doing well. Hope you're doing well, JT. And then Aiden, I don't want Ayuk on the commies. I do not care if he wants to reunite JD5. Just hate everything, baggage, etc. Exactly. I mean, it seems not ideal. Ayuk got his money. Players need to get their money with such a short career arc. I have no problem with player getting his money. It's then him not doing his job afterwards. And if Ayuk wants to retire now, go for it. What I worry, even if it was to a team that I'm not a fan of, like, I just worry from just a football in general standpoint is, if I was running a team, signing Ayuk, I don't see what that fixes for me, because I just don't think you can count on him at all. Apparently, Meg saying he didn't rehab correctly. She's been following can't remember what Twitter doctor said this, but she was telling me about it. But yet somehow I'm sure he'll be able to pass his physical. Diana Rossini, Crosby to return to the Raiders. Well, I mean, their defense got a lot better. They signed a lot of players yesterday. Unfortunately, I did check the Raiders schedule to see if they play the Ravens this year. They do not. Maybe they'll both get into the playoffs, because I do think it could be pretty epic to see Max Crosby against the Ravens. For the ultimate rug pull. I mean, Max Crosby was so pissed last year that the Raiders, and he was clearly injured, right? He had to have a meniscus surgery after the season. He was clearly injured. They shut him down at the end of the year when they had nothing to play for. He was so pissed he demanded a trade and stormed out. How is he going to treat the Ravens? With Ayuk, yeah, they are bad. My bags need Ayuk to be a comedy. Don't say it, Hartman. I agree. That'd be quite. I mean, Clint Kubiak, Coach of the Year, but that'd be wild. I blame the coaching staff for Ayuk. Why start a fight over color of shorts in practice? I think it was way more than that, right? Like, there's so many reports of him being late for meetings, not showing up, not doing his rehab, all that kind of stuff. So my guess is, I don't tend to know all the ins and outs, but my guess is that kind of stuff is the coaches trying to reestablish they're in control, and also show to the rest of the team, because you have the rest of the team out here. I've said this before, just a couple of years ago, you had multiple 49ers on the Netflix receiver show, and we see the background of it. Like, Debo is getting treatment, and the trainer is asking, like, what's your pain threshold at? And he's yelling out, screaming out 9999. And nothing to do with JJ McCarthy. And he is just saying he's in excruciating pain, and he's out there 1 week later. So what does it say to the rest of the team that Brandon Ayuk can do all this and still get his money. Like it's not gonna create good team vibes for sure. It has to be destiny for Crosby to be a Raider when they made all these improvements in Kubiak in his first year. I mean, I do, I get why the Raiders were okay moving on with a big return, but Max Crosby is an elite pass rusher. There's only so many of those in the league. He's still, he's younger than Watt, younger than Hendrickson, he's about the same age as Myles Garrett. I think maybe probably a year younger than Myles Garrett, right? So, he still should have many good years ahead of him. Meg saying, Mike had a question for you in Discord. Can you break down how the hell paying somebody a bonus helps the cap and why that isn't just way used more often to have all top players hit the cap at a lower cost? Yeah, so not sure. I absolutely can. Was this the signing bonus or the option bonus? Both are kind of similar, but there's some nuance there. Let me break this down with, I'm trying to think if I can find a real life example real quick. But the way signing bonuses work is, let's say somebody got a $20 million signing bonus, and it's if it's a 2-year deal, then that $20 million would be split. $10 million would count, like the player would get that money up front, or sometimes it's on a payment plan, but that doesn't matter from a cap standpoint. That just matters when the player gets their actual money. But if it's a signing bonus, usually it is up front, or mainly. And then what it does is, if it's just over 2 years, then $10 million would count for the first year versus cap, $10 million would count for the second year. Now, what you typically see are like 5-year deals. You can extend a bonus, you can split it up in equal amounts over 5 years. And this is also why void years has become such a big thing, because you can sign somebody for 2 years, but add 3 void years. And the void years have no basic salary, but what they do is they split up the bonus. But let's just say if it was a 5-year deal, then that bonus is only counting $4 million each year against the cap. What it can work against you is when you cut a player or trade them, that signing bonus, the remaining years against the cap now all come up at that time. So when somebody's, and this is why Tua's has such a bigger cap hit. This is why AJ Brown, it costs them more to trade him now than it does in the future. And let me just switch over to over the cap to show this point. So give me 1 second. And share over the cap. So like AJ Brown, so as we can see here, for 2026, AJ Brown has a $1.3 million base salary. His cap has $10 million. This is from his initial signing bonus, $10.6 million. And then there's an option bonus. What the option bonus is, this makes it a little bit more confusing, but what they did is essentially, so his original contract, that broke down, he's basically getting league minimum every single year with his base salary. The signing bonus, his original one was based over 5 years. And then in this year, 2025, an option bonus was put in, which is essentially like a second signing bonus. And that's why the first year, it only counts this. And then they did another one for this year and subsequent years. So that's why these option bonuses get so extreme here, and why they've had to put in all these void years, because essentially they keep adding void years and creating a new signing bonus with that is the way it works. So right now, AJ Brown he plays the season today. He counts essentially 4 million against the Eagles cap. If he were to be cut, and this will also show, you can also look at trade pre-June 1st. Trade is a little different because the option bonus, depending on, there's a key date in this. Okay, the option is September 1st, so that is good to know. Coming on September 1st, so if he's traded before September 1st, then it only costs them 43 million against the cap. If they cut him now, the option, it might sound like an option bonus, but it's not an option. Like, they've guaranteed that money to him. That is fully guaranteed. They cut him today, it would cost them, he would count 72 million against their cap, meaning they would need to an essential 50 million extra from the 23 million to cut him. To trade him is not as bad because the team trading for him would have to incur this option bonus, but it'd still be 43 million because this kind of stuff, the 2027, 2028 stuff all gets accelerated, and a few other things. There's clearly a lot of nuances with this contract. They've been playing cap gymnastics with his contract for quite some time. What becomes interesting is, and why they say like post June 1st cut, if you wait till June 1st, then the only thing that counts against the cap this year is going to be 10.6 million this year signing bonus, and 5.9 or like 5.7 of his option bonus. Future option bonus and sorry, I know this is very confusing. Then the future signing bonuses, the 5.9 and the 3.9 next year would hit their cap and dead money the following year in 2027. But for at least 2026, they save the 7 million, and all these future option bonuses will be the responsibility of the new team. So I know that ended up being a much more complicated contract to use, but it's just, this is why people are saying like it's so impossible for the Eagles to trade AJ Brown now, because his contract is very complicated and there's not a lot of money in there for them to manipulate. Like even the Raiders and Jets agreed to manipulate Geno's contract to save the Raiders. It actually saved the Raiders like an extra $1.5 million than if they outright cut him. But from the Jets side, they're only responsible for like $3 million of Geno's contract. So I know that's confusing. If that didn't make sense, let me know. Most players do have a signing bonus. Not every team uses the option bonus. Things like roster bonuses and workout bonuses, usually these are guaranteed a certain time frame. Workout bonuses are as they occur, and some players just ignore them. They work out on their own. Because usually it's like prorated, like you get 50K for showing up for X number of workouts, 100K for a certain number, et cetera, et cetera. So they get the full freight there. There's a lot of cap nuances out there. I'm happy to answer any of them. Things like incentives, all these things have different concepts, but I'm happy to answer any of them. I know that was a complicated answer because that's one of the more complicated contracts out there, but most people are going to have signing bonuses. Let me see. Probably none of the new contracts are done. Maybe somebody like Tyler Biadasz is in here. So this is the Raiders. They signed him for 3 years. 30 million is the total cap number that we hear, and 9 million of that is signing bonus money. There's an extra $1 million roster bonus. So he needs to be on the roster March 13th, 2028 to get that extra bonus money. And then on March 13th next year, 5 million of his base salary becomes guaranteed. So the initial, which essentially means this full year is guaranteed, because what it sounds like just reading this contract, and I think this is a really good example, the guaranteed money is 15 million guaranteed. So how does that work? That's 9 million here, and then we see this 6 million here. So that's the 15 million. The guaranteed money is his full base salary. This year's guaranteed. Teams do that because they're not going to cut him in the year one, obviously, and essentially half of his money, 4.75, is guaranteed before March 13th. If they cut or trade him before then they won't incur anything. Then it would just be that essentially 15 million for 1 year, because then that would, let's say the Chargers, Biadasz has a bad year and they cut him next March 1st. Then he will count 10.75 million, because 6 million from the 2 years of the prorated signing bonus, and then 4.75 million. So he will actually count more against their, slightly, not more, because his total number would be 12.75. But this shows, like, if they cut him next year, June 1st, he will count 10.75 million against them. They'd save 2 million against the cap. So let me know if that makes sense. If not, happy to dig into it more. Aiden said there was a post where somebody said, with the Raiders traded Max, so Baltimore had no cap room, signed Linderbaum, chestnut checkers. Yeah, I mean, that is funny, but I think the Ravens were just out at that price tag for Linderbaum. I don't think they might have been willing, apparently, to make him the highest paid center, but that was probably by like 1 million, not 7 million. Still waiting on that big spending Jerry Jones has promised us. Yeah. Sounds like a lot of that will be in the secondary market. We got NapGod in here. Good to see you. Yes, sir. GP extension. Pretty much the Lamar and Josh Allen thing. They give them a bonus out, so nowhere they can just make. Oh, so the way that works is, let me bring up one of those contracts. This might not be updated because Bills had to do this with Josh Allen as well. And so what this is, I'm not sure if he's updated this. Yeah, he has. So as of whatever day it was, his base salary was just considerably higher. I don't know what it was, but they reduced it. Then they add this option bonus, and that's why you see all this money. And then they just tack on these void years. Same thing with Lamar. That's probably not updated because that happened just today. And so those are basically just provisions that any team can do. And there's an extent that they can do this. Of course, it's in the fine print of the contract. So yeah, okay, this does seem like it was updated because his number was much, much higher. I can't remember what it was. It was much, much higher. And so yeah, they tacked on extra void years. They moved his base salary into signing bonus, option bonus money. And he's still going to get all his money. It doesn't change that. What it changes is how it factors into the cap. So that's why now it's pushed to next year being a big number. And then, like if Lamar, which is very unlikely, but if Lamar just plays out these next few years, the Ravens will have a $42 million cap hit for no Lamar Jackson in 2028. That's what this means. Now, ideally, they work out an extension. These void years become real years. That money gets spread out even further. That's what the Ravens want to do. That's what they're hoping to do. And probably will happen at some point, but later in the summer. We got Mr. Mufasa in here, GM fam. Jerry's an old dog that doesn't learn new tricks. You would hope you would. Meg, you got to convince Steve to stay on till at least 4 for the real start of free agency, something like a reward. You won't auto-click and ask for his opinion on 24-hour live stream. That's a good point. He does. I hope they figure it out. Sorry, FK. I know I was not explaining it well. Wait, if it's your bull, yeah, such a great thing. I've seen enough Steve as the Scott Boras of agents. Appreciate that. I know I did not go through that probably as cleanly as I could have, so I apologize for that. I'm just saying I'm 15 minutes in the past. I swear to God, isn't listening. Yeah. They don't call it the tampering period for nothing. Well played, Baltimore. Not sure you've already touched on this, but do you think the Commanders are love for love at 7? Good to see you, Cade. I do. I think, will he get there? Will they have to make a small trade up to get him? I think they might even have to. I think the Titans are going to make a look at it. Maybe even they trade up with the Cardinals just to ensure, because there's a real chance that the Titans could just be in love with Jeremiah Love. But I think the Commanders are kind of boxed into a situation. All offseason, they've talked about wanting a major upgrade for the running back room. Those are pretty dwindled. I mean, I still think you could make the case like Rashard White's an upgrade, but I think that's what they want. I don't know. Steve sat back and read Mike and might have taken another shot of bourbon. We got GAB in here. He was streaming earlier today. I checked him out. Check out his channel, GAB Sports. He's a Raiders fan. So it looks like he's happy that Crosby might be staying put. Thanks, Steve. Sorry, that was great. Sorry, Chad, for the sidetrack. No worries. No worries. I heard a rumor that if you see Cam's Cataboo 3 times, Meg will appear. Grant you 3 wishes. Oh, my. All right. Do you like Love on the Titans? That's a good question. I think the Titans need to fix their center. They could use another guard. But I think Love, similar to the argument for Jane Daniels now, maybe not as much from a contention standpoint, but part of the issue why Washington wanted a big upgrade at running back is they don't want it to all be on Jane Daniels. They want to be more of a play action team, more under center. Ideally put Daniels in, less having Daniels be Superman. And, because that's what it was. That was what their run was 2 years ago. And it's just not sustainable. Like we joke about that for being Josh Allen, but the reality is, like, yes, Josh Allen doesn't have receivers, but Josh Allen has a good defense. They were like a top 10, top 12 unit last year. They were that basically, just about every year under Sean McDermott. Their offensive line's pretty solid. Last year probably took a step back, but good overall. They of course have an elite back in James Cook. But Jane Daniels just didn't have that. I mean, he's Terry McLaurin, still does, but McLaurin's obviously a couple years older. But he doesn't even have Eckler and Zach Ertz right now. So they need to get more weapons. They need to get more protection. And a running back and good running game in today's NFL is so crucial. We're seeing that more and more. You look at the teams, many of the teams are in the playoffs or went on deep runs in the playoffs. Some were committee approaches like the Patriots, but they were generally teams that could run the ball well. Yes, the Rams have a great passing attack also, but Kyron and Corum were a big part of that. So it's a big price to pay for Love, but I think it helps Cam Ward is how I view it. Obviously, we're only doing NFL drafts today, but did you see the solo shop for MLB is on Underdog? $75 entry, only 1 entry. Max looks intriguing. I've done it the last couple of years. Not sure if I'm going to do it this year. I might. I think tomorrow I will do baseball again if people will still want that. It was a fun show last week on Thursday. Thursday night I will be on with Meg, of course, on Sibling Showdown, so I still get my football fix in. But yeah, let's get into another draft. I appreciate everyone for going down that sidetrack of the cap with me. I actually enjoy it a lot. I think there's a lot of fun, interesting nuances with the NFL salary cap and how they handle things. And let's get back to a draft. So I'll get back in the big board streets. I'm going to enter this in 10 seconds. Earned in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Enter. So it looks like we filled it up, and we got Napball in here. We have Aiden in here, Minsu. So got a couple people in here. This should be fun. Charles is in here. Good to see you, Charles. Cap should really explode as the game becomes more international. Yeah, you'd think. For sure. I mean, it's already exploding. And, football, not every sport can say this. Their ratings continue to go up. I mean, even what we talk about like free agency or the draft, the ratings of the NFL draft are better than playoff basketball and hockey, even some playoff baseball. So it is pretty wild. I hope a draft good. I think Steve and Meg combined are in like 45 to 62 drafts I've done. Nice. Well, no, I think it's, an interesting time to mix things up. So let's see what Natball has in store. All right. This draft is going. Biggs, Bijan 1, 2, or Gibbs, Bijan 1 and 2. Natball taking Genty. No, I think it's year 2 could be fun, especially Linderbaum. Really improving that offensive line. So what you're saying is you have 2% Scataboo. It happens. Aiden, Meg's going to be coming for you. No, no, I've been taking him a little less, and in part because of like David Montgomery's situation that helped open things up. Now I feel better about like Dowdle. As much as I talked about Algier earlier, I think Algier is a fine click. All right, we'll go Cook and Justin Jefferson. I feel better now about things like, and maybe I'm wrong on Connor, but I feel better about him later. I feel better about J.K. Dobbins back with Denver. Just some of these backs, like there was a chance where they went to a situation where they were completely irrelevant. And, I think they're all in fine spots, even Gainwell. Had the Bucs done that and kept Sean Tucker, I'd be less on Gainwell, because then it's like, okay, we know he's not going to get the touchdowns. We know, Bucky's the lead back. He's just going to carve out a small passing game role. But now with no Tucker, it's just Bucky and Gainwell. I think Gainwell is fine. Yeah, I hope he just kind of stays in the 50s here, and maybe I'll force Meg to stop drafting him in the 20s to keep his ADP in check. But no, I think he should stay in the 50s. That's just a really good range for him, and then it becomes very defensible against some of these other guys. I mean, I think you can make the case Swift is better than him. Even Tootin, I think, is a stretch that Tootin's better than him. Like we know, just was not the case last year. And, if neither one of these guys get competition, yeah, Tootin's in the better offense, but Scaboo's the better all-around back. So I think I'm going to take Scatterboo in that case. Yeah. No, I got it. Yeah, force Meg. I'll do my best. Until the Giants giant take Love. Yeah, I mean, it's possible. I hope not, but it is possible. In which case, Washington should call the Giants and see if they will trade him Scadaboo, because Washington needs a back. I don't think it's JCM. And the thing is, I don't think they think it's JCM. I mean, at this point, Washington might need to reunite with Brian Robinson Jr. All right. The Giants take Love. Really wish the Giants trade Tracy going into year 3, damn near averaging so far. Yeah, I mean, I just think Tracy he's an okay back, and I think on the cheap he's good, but it's like a lot of teams, I mean, Washington not one of them, but most teams can have a back who's Tracy-esque. I just don't know if Tracy can expand on his role. Like, even down the stretch last year after the Scadaboo injury, we saw Singletary get more usage. Singletary himself was like missed a game or two last year, which helped Tracy. So I just think he's fine. He just, it's like there has to be a certain ADP for that kind of guy. I'll take Javonte. Let me decide on receiver. I don't take a lot of Garrett Wilson. I do think Geno is a positive for Garrett Wilson and Javonte. It's really Scadaboo versus Cohen. Tootin isn't in his league as a player. Yeah. Was it Kingsbury? I actually think Kingsbury was a JCM fan. So yeah, that's the other reason. Just every rumor that's come out from beat reporters, national writers, even Matthew Berry talked about how Washington does not view JCM as a number one back. The quote from Matthew Berry was, they see him as more of a 2 or a 3. That's not a super positive endorsement. Currently, right now, he's got no competition, but it also makes sense. He doesn't have really pass game viability. He had some fumbling issues. He had some very explosive runs, which were fun and helped give him some fantasy points, but those aren't necessarily as repeatable. And it's not like he is truly electric. This is not Jahmyr Gibbs out there. This is not. He needs like clear runway build-up speed, and then he can take it to the house, like we saw in that Christmas Day game. But I think they view him more as just like a change of pace guy, and he's not even like a touchdown hunter. So just is one of those backs who, he's good enough to make a team, but probably not good enough to be a key member of your team. We got Green Bean in here. Steve, how mad do you think Crosby is that Henderson got the bag that should have been his? Yeah, I mean, I think Crosby's still going to get paid, but I said before, like, Ravens have to be pretty happy that the Raiders are not on their schedule this year, because Crosby, I would not want to see what he'd be doing to Lamar. Having that injury in Matt Nagy isn't a dampener for you. So the injury thing, and look, like, coach speak is what coach speak is, but it sounds like Scadaboo is ahead of schedule, ready to run. He should be ready for like even OTA stuff. And I just compared to the Neighbors injury. Granted, different injuries, but both serious and both with pretty, relatively similar timelines in general. Neighbors was injured a month earlier, and the Neighbors reports that we're getting is we hope he's ready by training camp. Sure, a lot can change between now and then, but they are saying they believe that Scadaboo is ready for the offseason stuff this spring. And Giants are saying we hope Neighbors is ready by late July. I'm gonna, we'll have to see if there's any after effects of the injury for Scadaboo, but if he's clearly healthy, then I think that is that takes away the concern. And it's not like his injury. I'd be more worried, honestly, if he was shut down for the year with concussions. That those have a very high repeat rate. ACLs, Achilles have higher repeat rates. The dislocated, it was a bad dislocation, obviously. So there can be some extra fallout long term, but just kind of happy to wait and see on that. I might be taking Scadaboo here. It depends on what Aiden does. Yep, he forced me into it. Yeah, let's go DJ Moore also. Already have obviously don't have Josh Allen, but have a Buffalo bet on James Cook, DJ Moore. Could have the top two weapons from Buffalo. Don't get Josh Allen, but I could get a lot of their offense. As for the Matt Nagy side of the dampener, I mean, yeah, it's not great, but I don't know. I think while Harbaugh's not the offensive guy, I do think Harbaugh is putting his fingerprints on this, and I think the Giants are going to be like was mentioned, bringing in Patrick Ricard, bringing in Likely. I think there are a lot of two tight ends or with the fullback. So it's probably pretty positive for running, would be my guess, is just how it's looking. So that's the hope. Can an OC succeed with Smith-Schuster and Xavier Worthy and Pacheco? I mean, I don't think that's just the issue with Matt Nagy, because, the year Tyreek left was, I think, Bieniemy's last year with the Chiefs. And he did succeed with Smith-Schuster. Now, granted, Kelsey was a little better and more in his prime then, but the Chiefs' offense was roaring that year. I think the Chiefs' offense was fine for much of last year, given all the injuries and everything. It was just truly, it was some more situational stuff with Nagy that worries me. Still really hard to click Brees in third, knowing for at least half the season he's locked in the Jets. What do I do? Yeah, I don't love Brees Hall's price. It's just bad teams, bad player, or not good players on bad teams will still have some fantasy value, but it's just their ceilings are probably more capped. And even with Garrett Wilson, who I did take here now, Garrett Wilson could benefit more just because Jets are probably going to be down. They're probably going to be playing catch up in a lot of games. And I just want to mention this point. Yes, Geno stinks, but he can rip the ball. He can throw the ball, and he can throw the ball downfield. Where some of their quarterback options, like if Tua had gone to the Jets, I would not be happy for Garrett Wilson. A couple other lesser quarterbacks, if they were just going to go with Carson Wentz, or like what the Cardinals are doing, like the Brissett thing, like it just feels flat. Like I'm kind of out. Not that I love Garrett Wilson, but I think Garrett Wilson is just going to get a ton of targets with a quarterback who is going to throw him the ball. Like Justin Fields is a better fantasy quarterback than Geno Smith, but Geno Smith is a better quarterback. Like in terms of throwing the football, Geno is better. Like Geno threw the ball a lot to the other team last year, but he's going to have more games with like 250, 300 yards passing than like Fields ever would. I think to me, Brees just goes a little too high. Interesting that JCM was so good. Washington felt comfortable trading Brian Robinson Jr. Kind of interested in JCM this year, but at the moment, love falls to Washington. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Like, good to see fly fish, and just from what I've seen from JCM, I think at the time they, knew that they weren't going to extend Brian Robinson, and he was fairly replaceable. I also think at the time we're like, we have Austin Eckler, and Austin Eckler. This was not the Austin Eckler of 2019 through 2021, 2022, I guess even. But Austin Eckler for Washington the year before, he did miss 2 games or miss a few games due to injury. But when he was on the field, he was actually really good for Washington. And I think they kind of looked at it like, we can cobble something together here. I'll do Jacoby Myers. Actually, let me do Pittman. And I think I might. Yeah, I'll do Myers also. I don't mind this. And then JCM, just was very inconsistent. Like, again, big Chargers game, good game against Dallas. Chargers was tough defense. Dallas game, not so much, but he was just very inconsistent. Like, I don't think he displayed near the vision that they were hoping for. Had some fumbling issues, had a couple of penalty issues. Also didn't do next to nothing in the passing game. So I think it just became such a thinner proposition once Eckler went away. And, he got the carries, but it's like there were a lot of empty yards and empty usage. It was kind of a lot like Woody Marks. Like Woody Marks, yes, he was the team's top back, but the Texans went out as soon as they could and traded a 4th and more for David Montgomery. And the issue for JCM is at least Woody Marks could retain like a bit of a passing role, where now I do think JCM is just kind of like handcuffed. It's just like normally he might get 2 to 5 carries a game and no passing work as a backup is my concern. You and I, Steve, are lockstep on Swift, way underpriced. Yeah. Don't be surprised if the Rams mortgage the farm to move up for Love. I just think they're so happy with Kyron and Corum. Like, is Love better than him? Sure, but it's such it would be such a marginal difference. And I would not be surprised if they go all in and trade up, but it would be for somebody like Sonny Styles or an edge. They have good edges now, led by Jared Verse. But, it's one of those things, you can never have enough edge help. Sonny Styles, talked about this with Who Ames yesterday, would just make a lot of sense. No, I mean, I agree they're all in the win now mode. And, in some areas, yeah, like even a marginal, like even an upgrade, a small upgrade could be worth it. I could see if they stick at 13 and a corner's there, they could take a corner. They just signed the duo from the Chiefs. Like, you generally need 3 corners, and their corners were just real bad last year. Obviously, they're going to be much better now, but they could just say, we are going to have the best secondary in the league. We just saw this work with the Seahawks, where the Seahawks secondary was elite, and teams just could not throw on them. So they could do that. They could trade back and stockpile. They could trade it for a player if they can fit that guy under financially. The funniest thing would be if they trade for Max Crosby right now. But no, I don't think that's happening. That's more, I think, a financial thing. My Jarquez Hunter bags like that. Oh, Kevin Bynard goes to Vrabel in New England. That's a good signing for them. He continues to produce turnovers. So I probably should think about quarterback at some point. Let's see what gets back to me. And yeah, I think today the real thing to watch will be Murray and Cousins. Both have hinted about maybe taking their time, which is intriguing. So do not love what got back to me. I'm going to try and push it. We'll take a Jadarian Price, and we will take Xavier Worthy. This might be a 7 wide receiver build. And loving this running back start as well. So, it's funny they say they're going to take their time, but the reality is there seems to be only 2 clear openings and maybe 3 with Arizona, Vikings, Browns, and even that some people question the Browns, and then Arizona. So it's like, what are you taking your time for? But both of those guys will be free to talk to other teams at 4 p.m. today. So we'll see if either one ends up making the move. And maybe the taking the time thing is the Aaron Rodgers fallout, because they might look at it that Pittsburgh is a better long-term option. I still think the Vikings would make more sense, but Pittsburgh is a pretty attractive option. They have DK, now Pittman locked up long-term. They have Mike McCarthy. I know some people beat up Mike McCarthy, and it obviously went wrong in Dallas and he had some early playoff exits. But any year Dak was healthy, that offense was just cooking. And I know people say that was Dak, or prior to that he had prime Aaron Rodgers. And yeah, I get that. But this is the thing about the quarterback market or the quarterback state in the NFL. The difference between, Dak and now Aaron Rodgers or Kyler or even Cousins is still significant, but it's at least close enough that it's way different than Dak to Cooper Rush, what we saw when Dak would go down. And, I just think any quarterback should want to play with Mike McCarthy. Like, I think that Steelers will have a good offense this year. Terrence saying Jadarian Price feels Roshan Johnson-ish. Well, I get it. The backup to an elite back. I think Jadarian Price is still a 2nd-round pick. Maybe 3rd at worst. Roshan won the 4th, and Roshan always felt capped. It wasn't just like he couldn't earn carries over Bijan, but it was like, if you just watched him, he could do some nice things in the passing game. But it was, some of the same things with Jadarian Price, a lot of blowouts time. But I just think Price is a better all-around runner. I'd be pretty shocked if he's not a 2nd-round pick. Does that mean he's an immediate, great pick in this range? No, of course not. Like, Caleb Johnson was the 3rd, but we saw him, Henderson kind of not get much usage until Ramondre went down. We saw Harvey not get a little better usage, but that he really was helped with J.K. Dobbins going down. So it's not a home run, but I still think there's plenty of upside there for a guy like Jadarian Price. So we'll take Darnold. And then I think I will go Stroud. We got Rye tying in here. What's up, Steve? Listening to you doing errands. Appreciate that. Thanks for joining in. Of course, everyone, thanks for subbing. Thanks for liking this episode. We appreciate all the support. Those dudes aren't taking their time. That smokescreen from the agents is only, yeah. Well, I think the Browns could be open, like Todd Monken. I mean, how much, like, it would only be open for one of these guys who are cut, and it's a cheap $1.3 million deal. They weren't going to go out and sign Malik Willis. But, Todd Monken took that job, and I don't know if he was told he had to work with Shador, he had to work with Deshaun, but I just can't imagine. Like, I know you want a head coaching job, but he might have some ability to bring in a quarterback. So if so, he could offer a starting role. And then the whole Arizona thing. Yeah, I mean, I don't really see the comp to me at all. I mean, other than it's like a number 2 back to an elite back. Like, I just think they're in different prospect tiers. This rate, I can talk myself into Seattle drafting price. Yeah, who was I listening to that? It might have been Josh and Hayden talking about, like, Seattle has made some odd choices in the first round, like LJ Collier, Rashard Penny, guys like that. Could they just jump up? I think if Seattle drafts price, it's more, which is probably very live, is they trade back to the second round, maybe for a team coming up to get that 5th-year option for, Ty Simpson. So it could be early second round, it could be mid-second round. There, I think it'd make a lot more sense. And then it's also, we got our back, we got a couple extra picks. Because they also have to, it's so wild to me, when Seattle started free agency, they had, multiple defensive backs. They had Mafe, they had Walker, and they had Rashid Shaheed. And I would have said Shaheed is the clearly first one to go. Like, yes, you're a talent, and I'm a big Rashid Shaheed fan personally, but it's just like you have a team with JSN, Cubs back another year, you have Torrey Horton, you can get a 4th-round receiver, a 3rd-round receiver to round out your unit and get some future growth and development. Walker, you have no internal plan. The defensive backs, you have no internal plan. Mafe, no internal plan. Like, it's hard to get all those guys. And the guy that they re-signed is Shaheed and let everyone else essentially go. So they still have some money to spend, and I'm sure they'll bring in some guys here or there, but it just seems like lesser versions of all the guys who left. I was a little surprised, like Reek Woolen and a couple of the guys didn't have as big of a market as I thought they would. And especially with them leaving. Like, I thought they were just going to be clear overpays. So they need to do something to get some bodies in there. That's why I could see a trade back option. I mean, price, that'd be pretty expensive. All right, we'll take Connor here. As I said, I like that, and take Kelsey. Don't really get Kelsey as much falling back here. And we go to the board. I'm seeing a 2561. Aiden is at 2551. Napal is at 2452. Yeah, that's how I see it. Like, I only think it makes sense in a trade back. I don't think they do it at 32. I mean, they do some crazy stuff, so that should be mentioned, but I don't think they do it at 32. Yeah, there have been reports that A-Chain could be had via trade, and maybe that is the route they're going. That'd be interesting. Bright Tie asking, who's going to play the slot position in New England system has produced numbers for decades. Yeah, I mean, Josh McDaniels has always favored a good slot receiver. I mean, we saw that even his year with the Raiders, where Jacoby Myers, a former Patriot, came in and was like producing. Adams had more touchdowns, but kind of on par to Devontae Adams, just with the way that system worked. So yeah, Romeo Doubs doesn't fill that. I don't know if they try to work in Doubs or not Doubs, Kayshon Boutte or Kyle Williams in the slot. Like, I think they could maybe attempt that. I just don't see it being Pop Douglas. I mean, he might still be on the team, and I don't see it being Efton Chisholm, again, still on the team, but I'd be shocked if he's suddenly making this huge jump after barely playing last year. So maybe they get it. And this is the thing where they could still get aggressive in the first round, like somebody like Concepcion or Omar Cooper Jr. is there. Maybe they trade up for Mekhi Lemon, or maybe one of those other two receivers. So it's interesting. I also mean depending on where they stand, what they want to do financially, like maybe they could do like a 1-year deal for Debo for less than what the Diggs deal was. That could make a lot of sense also. Achane to Seattle, Washington would be fun. I mean, Chisholm is going to get a shot at it. I just don't know if they're looking to run back a Super Bowl run. Yeah, I don't know if I don't think he's the perfect slot, but he's got the body type. He's a pretty good route runner. So I think it's at least interesting to try it out. Interesting. Aaron Jones staying in Minnesota. Wow. So I guess the Aaron Jones probably didn't think that the market was going to be favorable to him. So he stays in Minnesota. Doesn't look like the Vikings are going to do anything major running back wise. I'd guess maybe like an early day 3 pick, maybe like a 4th rounder or something. Well, I think Aaron Jones is a pretty good click now. Let me take Brian Robinson. Quarterback wise, no. Wide receiver, I think I go Trey Harris. Speaking of guys staying in Minnesota, I'll take Hawkinson. Aiden stole my Dalton Schultz for my Stroud stack, but no, it's all good. I was like, where did Schultz go? I was expecting him. Good pick. I think Schultz is just undervalued. He should be going in like 150s, not 160, 180 something. Yeah, definitely wasn't expecting Jones to finish back in Minnesota. Pat's Athletic Beat reported Dubs is set to fill Diggs' role to be a part. What the hell? Yeah, that doesn't seem right. Like, so Diggs played, some outside, like that, definitely, but I just don't think Dubs can be a little bit of a power slot, but it's just not. It just doesn't make any sense for him to be in the slot. Like, I think Diggs, I'll have to look it up. I think Diggs was in the slot about 60% of the time. Let me look that up while I have a break here. Yeah, I'm not sure I'm buying that. Come on. My data is not working right now. Yeah, Aaron Jones contract. Yeah, Mason was getting steamed up to like the 120s, so I don't think that happens anymore. Paulino saying Patriots beat, mentioning Jerry Bernard 2nd round. Yeah, the tough thing is he's just late. They have a late 2nd round. Bernard could very well be off the board by then. But yeah, maybe they trade up in the 2nd round, or they're another team that could maybe trade back, take him in the early 2nd round. I get the feeling they're not done. Yeah, Dubs is versatile, where he could play a little bit more in the slot. Just that power slot role, it fits his style because he's an X, but he's not like a vertical X. He's not Alec Pierce, right? But he, as Matt Harmon famously said, like couple of years ago when people wanted to just dunk on Dobbs and get him out, he said Dobbs is just 10% better than anything else the Patriots can put, or the Packers can put out there. And I just saw his video the other day, and Harmon said, and then, I feel like I was right there. But Dobbs went out and proved me wrong. He said, I'm now 20% better, 30% better. He just continued getting better. And no, he should be your primary X receiver. I think there's no question with that. I'm on the clock. We will go Ryan Flournoy. I might double tap and take Kyle Williams. I've been taking him in this range too. Yeah, let me do that. Go to the board. If Hawkinson and Jones come back, I think it signals they're going with Rodgers, running back, the quarterback the head coach wanted. Yeah, since the tampering period started, they could have been talking to Rodgers as well. That would be interesting if they, make a push for Rodgers. I know he probably would have signed last year, but most rumors have it as it's Steelers or bust this year. But I do think the Vikings are maybe the lone exception out there. So yeah, Diggs was in the slot 54% of the time. So it's 46 and 54. Yeah, I mean, Demario Douglas was 80% of his snaps were in the slot, and Kyle Williams did 10% of his snaps in the slot, and Kayshon Boutte about 10% as well. So it would be much more, but it's also, there was only so many slot, and Matt Collins at like 20%. Those are more like for blocking, I'm sure. Oh, actually, these are routes. Sorry, not snaps. So those are routes run from the slot. But those wouldn't be blocking ones. But still could be blocking like as a downfield blocker for like a screen pass or something. And Romeo Doubs last year was 18% slot, which is relatively on the low side, actually very much on the low side for like a full-time receiver. 82% wide, that's what you generally like to see. So yeah, I would not imagine that he's playing those slot snaps at all. Like, again, some of what Diggs was outside the 40, 5% of the time. Sure, he's filling in that. Agreed. Like, when it's also, that's the beat who said like the day before minicamp that they thought Diggs would need to go on the PUP list. And he was like he was doing a wide receiver breakdown of the team and going through each one. He's like, they signed Steph Diggs. He's gonna, he has potential to be the number one when he gets back from injury. Expected to be back, after a month or something. I can't remember what the exact wording was. And everyone started cratering Diggs's ADP. I'm on the clock. And literally the next day he's out there like running drills, like full speed. Right. There is absolutely nothing at the quarterback position right now. I'll take Mac Jones. I mean, there is just nothing. nothing left at quarterback. Tight end. I'll just take Colby Parkinson. I think Parkinson's very fine this late. So yeah, the Athletics Patriots beat writer has had some issues. Patriots got the leftovers of Dubs, still can be explosive, just would be inconsistent. 80 million for Dubs, I don't know, man. He's good. I mean, I think the difference is Kayshon Boutte, like, combined, they're a good receiver. Like, he's more of a vertical guy. Dubs is really good in the intermediate game. And also he's good as a blocker. And he's good in the red zone. So I just think Dubs does those things. He gives the Patriots something he really didn't have last year. Like Drake May, when they get in the red zone, like, yeah, they could scheme some stuff up, and sometimes Henry and even Austin Hooper get these touchdowns. But when they got in the red zone, there was not like a receiving threat that you felt was a big weapon. Dubs is not saying he's Mike Evans or Devontae Adams, but he is pretty solid in that department. So I do think he helps them situationally quite a bit. Exactly, Hartman. 100%. Yeah. Fly fishing regarding Kyler, Minnesota, Arizona. It's weird Arizona hasn't officially released Kyler yet. Could he still potentially stay? I mean, that would be fantastic. That would be so wild, and I'd be here for it. Yeah, I mean, it's not weird because, like, these things get reported. 5 days ago, it was reported that Geno was cut, and that's what everyone said. And then he ends up getting actually traded because, just how that worked. Same with the Raiders' Teron Johnson, Bills' nickel corner. It was reported he was cut. Next thing you know, traded. Rashad Gary, remember he posted on Instagram or whatever that goodbye Green Bay, I'm out of here. And next thing you know, he's traded. So these moves, teams don't officially, they could cut him early. Like Washington did cut Tyler Biadasz early. The Dolphins did cut Alec Ingold early. Sometimes, and I don't think in those specific cases, there are sometimes bonuses or certain money gets guaranteed at a certain point, and they need to do it before then. Usually those are after the league year, but some are before. In those two cases, I don't believe that was the case. But those guys got cut, like fully 100% cut beforehand. But yeah, I think more maybe Arizona was, I know it's little, but even if they get like the pick swap, and not just the pick swap, the Jets actually take on like an extra 1.5 million of Geno's contract. Maybe the Cardinals could get a little bit more salary relief. I still doubt some team would do it at this point. But that could be what they're holding out hope for. They have one more hour. So I wouldn't hold my breath, but I think that's the big thing with that. And now in some of these cases, like Geno apparently was able to start to talk to other teams, whether the Cardinals have fully allowed that or not. Same with Cousins and the Falcons. You think they would, but sometimes they say no. I agree. I mean, I think the Vikings, their defense should still be really good. Their offensive line, they need to replace Ryan Kelly, but still good, just off injured. They now have two backs again. You have Jefferson and Addison. You have Hawkinson. I do think they're ready to go. I mean, this is true. Rodgers with the chance to beat Green Bay at least twice. A wide receiver one that doesn't punch fans in the face. I mean, I think he could consider it. So they now have been able to reach out. Maybe they have interest in him enough for those reasons, for sure. Kyler isn't Minnesota coded. Head coach in Org is smart. I think that is why the one thing about Kyler, from a fantasy asset, definitely the best quarterback out there. From a even a real life asset, you get it. But I wasn't sure if he was going to fit this Kevin O'Connell style offense. I do think he's got a big enough arm, but Kevin O'Connell likes things done on time. Like even Cousins talked about it, like his first year with Kevin O'Connell, who he knew from Washington. Like there would be times where Kirk would turn down the deep throw because he didn't fully trust it. Like he didn't trust those fully open. And Kevin O'Connell would say, like, no, you need to hit that one, you need to throw it. Like, there have been those kind of things. And Kyler just seems like a guy who likes to dazzle on his own. So we'll see if it works out or not. That's why I do think Cousins is still alive to go back there. Aiden saying, very light for Pittman to outscore DK and you get a cheaper price on him. Why not? I do agree. I mean, I not necessarily outscore, but I think it's going to be very close. And I think Pittman is very underrated in these drafts. He should really rack up the targets in Pittsburgh. He's Jets, Browns coded. I mean, I could see the Browns bringing in Kyler. Minnesota drafted JGM 10th overall. They can't be that smart. If Kyler was smart, he'd be trying hard to get to Minnesota. This I agree with. Like, that's the best place for him. I just don't know if he's the best quarterback for them. Kyler winds up in Pittsburgh, potentially. The guy is gone. Oh, the GM who got JJ McCarthy. Or if LaFleur was smart, he'd just keep Kyler in Arizona. That's what I said a month ago. Like, trade Jacoby Brissett, keep Kyler. I just thought they'd tell everyone to swallow their pride and keep. Me too. I completely agree. If Kyler stays, I'm back out on McBride. I don't know. I think Kyler. I don't think it was a. Here's the thing. Like, I still don't think Jacoby Brissett is like this great fantasy asset for McBride, Harrison, Wilson, because his skills are limited. And I don't think we can trust that he's going to throw the ball 41 times a game. Chig to the commies. Chig 3 years. Okay, we got a signing. We got a move. That is a good signing. I would have preferred Likely, but sounds like Likely was going back to, with old Harbaugh. We'll see what the money is for Chig. I guess kind of in the Otten range, $10 million a year. Dazzle on his own is the least bullish quote you can give an NFL player. A bit, like, out of structure. Yeah, I mean, Chig, John Bates, very good. I'm glad Adam Peters isn't trying to revive his terrible Ben Sinnott pick. So Kyler taking his time is bearish. I'm 1 week away from declaring him expensive Diego Pavia. McBride goes down with Kyler because in the red zone, can't see him over all the bodies. Even more reason to go late tight end. I mean, I do agree. Like, I think McBride's price is tough regardless. Like, I don't know if there was a quarterback that they could bring in and add, whether Malik Willis, any of them. McBride just has to run so pure, and just everything went right for McBride last year. We got younger for once, Steve. It's a miracle. Absolutely. Zach Ertz's draft pick in the background did not age well. Chig Bag's feeling good. Yeah, but some of him I don't have a ton, but I'm okay. I also don't think he like shoots up boards too much. I mean, he'll go up. Don't get me wrong, but he'll remain like in that late tight end mix. Helm took Chig's job with rookie this year. Texas's entries. Yeah, I like him a lot. I mean, I have him as my tight end 5. I think probably he's a 4th round pick, kind of like Helm. So yeah, maybe. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Ertz, honestly, and I said this a while ago, not that helps with fantasy relevance, but I would have seen Ertz following Kingsbury to Arizona if they didn't bring back Higbee. Chig to 130 is not good. That's not where he should go. you cannot convince me that Chig should be going higher than Mark Andrews. There's not a universe that makes sense. Njoku to the Eagles, Njoku to Philly or Carolina, baby. Yeah, I actually would have liked Goddard in Washington, but I don't mind Chig. I think he's a solid young tight end, pass catching tight end. All right, where are we at in likes? Sorry, I can look at it, pull out my phone, but I'm gonna determine if we do another draft or not. So let me know where we're at likes. Then I'm gonna review these teams and see where we're at. 36 likes. All right. I'm going to do it. I'm going to say, I'll put a higher mark and I'll do it for Meg. I'll do 44 for Cam Scattaboo. When we get to 44 likes in the next, say, 10 minutes, I'll do another draft. Okay. So let me, in the meantime, review these teams because not only my team, but we did have two guys in here, Nat Ball and Aiden, to review as well. I go Darnold, CJ Stroud, Mac Jones. Did not like taking the Mac Jones pick, but I'll take a third quarterback at some level. This is the state where JJ McCarthy is, and they haven't even signed anyone yet. Wait on quarterback. This is risky, I think, no doubt. But I do love how the rest of this team turned out. James Cook, Javonte Williams, Cam Scattaboo, Jadarian Price, James Conner, Brian Robinson. I talked about both Conner and I think Brian Robinson. I mentioned this in Discord, and he still could get trumped by a rookie. But Brian Robinson to Seattle makes a lot of sense. He was on San Francisco last year. The new offense coordinator was tight ends coach. So there's some familiarity. I could see that being a fit. Then wide receiver, Justin Jefferson, Garrett Wilson, DJ Moore, Michael Pittman Jr., Jacoby Myers, Xavier Worthy, then tacking on Flournoy and Kyle Williams at the end, and a tight end room of Kelsey, Hawkinson, and Colby Parkinson. So that, I actually like that tight end room a fair amount. I don't know why Parkinson, I don't think the Higbee news should impact Parkinson at all. I get Ferguson's there, but it's not going to shock me at all if Parkinson's outscoring Ferguson this year. As Nat Ball said, the Rams are in it to win it. Like, they're not going to give Ferguson more snaps if he's not earning them. And Parkinson, just with his blocking and his ability to stay in the field, I think he's just going to be out there, particularly in the red zone. And then Hawkinson, we know he's back with Minnesota. Let's hope we hear about a quarterback soon. And then, of course, Kelsey no longer retiring. So that feels like a good late tight end room. Here we have Nat Ball at the 6th spot. Caleb, Baker, Tua. So, 3 quarterbacks. Tua is at least probably starting this year. At least at the start of the year. I don't know if he finishes this year. Running back room, he talked about he was going to pull somebody up. He pulled up Genty. Brees Hall, Rico. Love the Rico pick. Like the Rashard White pick. Who Heems and I talked about White yesterday. Like, some of the most obvious landing spots, no longer Minnesota, but even some other ones like Seattle, like Washington, would be really good fits. Jacksonville is also in the mix potentially, and he takes another guy who maybe ends up going to Jacksonville, Sean Tucker. Both of them had the Sean Cohen or Liam Cohen connection, and then tacks on Ray Davis, Seth McGowan. I'm not a huge McGowan fan, but I think could have 4th round draft capital. So fair pick in 20th round. Ray Davis, I actually like a fair amount. Drake London, potentially with Tua. Zay Flowers, Parker Washington, Wandale, Jalen McMillan, still getting him in this price range is good. Brandon Ayuk, he's going to get cut today. We'll see where he ends up. Calvin Ridley, he might get cut soon. We'll see the situation. Then Jahan Dotson, now Falcon. I think that wide receiver room, I consider Wandale in the top 100. His ADP is going to move up also. It's like you got 4 guys there. Jalen McMillan, I really like the value getting there because I think, probably when BBM comes around, Jalen McMillan's probably a guy who settles in like the 125-ish range, 130. So probably a couple round value there. And then all these guys are, well, Ayuk and Ridley are wild cards, but reasonable to take when you're getting some falls on them. And then 2 tight ends, Loveland and Sadiq, last year's top rookie, and then, this year's top rookie. So could be a very strong tight end room. Aiden goes 3-6-8-3. Goff, Bryce Young, Kirk Cousins. We'll see if Cousins gets that job, but still have Goff and Bryce Young. If not, Kenneth Walker, pulling him up, got him at 14. ETN, actually got him past ADP. DeAndre Swift, so 3 strong running backs, fourth one with Ramondre. Yeah, this turns into a really good running back room. I like the Gainwell price. I think Gainwell is just a high floor play right now. Low ceiling if anything happens to Bucky. And then Dylan Sampson, another probably pretty clear number 2 back. As for receiver, ASB, Tetero, McMillan, Brian Thomas Jr., Ricky Pearsall. That's a strong 4. Got them all past ADP, which also feels nice. Debo, Io Manor, Malik Washington, Darnell Mooney. Debo, we'll see where he ends up, but the 20 pick fall seems crazy to me. Plenty of spots where he is not just returning 155 value, not just returning 136 value, but he could be, if he does what he did in Washington last year, he's worthy of a top 100 pick. Not that I necessarily think his ADP will ever get there, but that's the kind of upside you can get. Io Manor, Malik Washington, and Darnell Mooney. Io Manor right now is one of the top 3 in Tennessee. That probably continues, particularly with them choosing Wandale over like an outside receiver for their big free agent signing. Malik Washington, probably number 2 right now in Miami. Obviously, the draft could change that. And Darnell Mooney, we'll see where he ends up. Fine 20th round click. Ferg, Likely, and Schultz. He stole Schultz from me, but I get it. No, love that tight end room. Ferguson, we know what he is. Such a touchdown weapon. Likely now in New York, I think could be a lot of fun. And of course, Dalton Schultz feels super safe and able to return a lot of value. All right, let me catch up with chat and see where we're at. Jake would have to first emerge in order to reemerge. Aiden excited that we're going to be doing another one. Ayuk will be joining your Redskins soon. I worry about that. I'm not a fan. It could definitely come to pass though. 9 more. Come on, chat. 10 minutes pre or post daylight savings time. Fanspeak is so back. 44 like goals. Yep. No, I think Chig will be fine. It's just, I'll be losing my mind though. I can't prove it. I swear I lost an hour of my life the other day. No 20th round Cam Akers. Come on. Yeah, I don't know if I can get there, Paul. 44 likes for draft number 3, 60 for draft 4. According to my calculations, since you did a little board, no one was in it, doesn't count. 2 more likes, Chad. Uh-oh, are we getting there? Look, somehow, some way we got to 44. Well done, Mike. Well done. Yeah, all the Mike Robs. Made it happen. Oh, good old Mike. Good to see Nice and Blunt in here. Just joined, like 45. Appreciate you, Nice and Blunt. Good to see you. All right, guess I'm doing another draft. Let's check Twitter real quick to see if anything else is going on. And of course, we did get some news there. Aaron Jones, Chig, Nick Cross to Washington. That's a good solid signing for them. So it was a 3-year up to $30 million deal. So up to the K-Dot money, probably fairly close. So I think that's a nice little discount Washington got versus say Likely. Roll out. Oh, good old Mike. All right, well, let's get into this draft. I'm going to count it down. Well, let me take a drink first because I've been talking for a while. All right, let's count it down. We're going to enter a big board. I'm going to enter in 10 seconds. Enter in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Enter. All right, waiting on one more. Got you on 4 phones. The Steve echo is crazy. Oh my. All right, this draft is starting. Let's see, we got Minsu in here at 3. We got Young Mula at 4. Eagles is in here, Nate. I'm sure he's not in chat. Is that Rye at 10? I can't remember if that's your screen name or not. So please remind me if it is. But yeah, this should be a good draft. And let me know if anyone else is in here that I miss. And I'm at the turn again at 12. All right. I thought that was you, Anita. Sometimes locking in screen names takes a while. But no, so we got Rye and Rye Tie in was at the 10th spot. So In and Young Mula take Chase and Puka. And yes, good, absolutely good luck to everyone. All right, coming up to the turn. Pretty standard fare so far. It's be pulled up slightly, but I think I do that a couple times. And let's see what I get here at the turn. We'll go Cook Genty. Yeah, I can't bring myself to take Kenneth Walker here. I want to go to the board and get back to chat. Like seeing Sipping with Steve, a Saturday night show where you drink bourbon and draft a banger, but the kicker is Meg has to be there, but she isn't in charge of the screen. Ooh, that would be interesting. I'm Chase over Puka every day of the week. No one shares Puka, obviously, but every time I'm through and taking, yeah, I'm Chase over Puka as well, but I'm the same way. Like there are times I just pull up Puka because I feel like, you know, I don't want to have zero of this guy. All right. So as I said earlier, I think I'm going to do baseball again tomorrow afternoon. It's only a couple more weeks left. want to get a few more baseball drafts in. They're fun to do, and I know, we're still growing in that department, but I enjoy them. I enjoy talking, with you guys in any capacity, but I enjoyed doing the baseball show last week. Tomorrow night, I will be on with Meg for our sibling showdown. We're going to have some other members-only streams, including our Sunday show later this week. I did a free agency members-only show already, so check that out. And don't forget, we have our Substack. We're posting articles, updating rankings. I already updated my rankings once this week. I'll probably update them again Thursday or Friday after more of this free agency shakeout, some of these trades and such. And then, we have a couple of articles every week as well. For a Substack, you can try it out 1 week for free. Then it's $34.99 for an entire year. We really appreciate the support. If you haven't already, if you're just watching right now, hit that sub button. That really helps us. We're going to do a 24-hour live stream. You can see me drafting crazy after the BBM launches. And hopefully I'll, be drafting other tournaments, not just BBM. But we need to get to 1,000 subs first. So help us get there. So coming up on the turn here. Let's see what I get. Okay, Jacobs, that was a fall, but that got stopped. We'll take ETN here, and I'll go Higgins. Yeah. So ETN, I think his ADP should rise. I think he's in a really good spot with the Saints. And no Kamara is still there, but they didn't pay ETN for that to be a split backfield. So I think we could see a really, really strong year from ETN in that Saints offense with Kellen Moore, with that offensive line. WFN Warehouse saying we need a siblings draft where Rudy makes the selections. Oh boy, that would be something. If Chase has a Week 18 matchup against the Ravens and doesn't get 2 matchups during best ball, I feel like that actually should be taken into account. 2 gets 30% of his season totals against the Ravens each year. Yeah, that is. And, their second matchup was a dud for the whole Bengals offense. And everyone thought it was going to be such fantasy goodness, and it just wasn't. But no, that first matchup, Burrow's first game back Thanksgiving night, that was fun. The year before, he had 2 great games against them. So he's a Ravens killer for sure. I'm up on about 20 baseball drafts right now. Definitely have to do those right after I get off stream. Let me go back to the board. So I start 3031 and wait for I tight at 022. Mulla 121, Minsu now 32032. And yeah, coming into this 5th round. So goes Henderson, Swift, Tootin. I think Tootin's fair in these late 50s, early 60s. I'm not going to take a ton until the draft because even I do worry about like even somebody like Emma Johnson or Jonah Coleman, not the flashiest of draft pick, but those guys who are really good vision runners can do some, Coleman in the short yardage range, Emma Johnson in the passing game, and just start taking pieces of the Tootin pie that, we need for him to pay off. All right, I'm up. Let's make these 2 picks. We're going to go with a rookie in Tate. And I guess I'll do Burrow. So I know like Young Moore is a big Tootin guy, and I know others are too. Like Cody off the Schneid is a big Tootin stan. I have a tougher time. And like I talked about with Huheems, I think they're also very live to add like Rashard White or even Sean Tucker. And again, Sean Tucker stealing those touchdowns, being that touchdown vulture, just really begins to limit how high he can go. Because I think the problem is they actually hit a home run with the LaQuint Allen pick from a real life fantasy perspective. Like LaQuint Allen needs to be out there on a lot of passing downs, especially when you're not looking for the back to be a primary weapon. He's an excellent pass blocker. And, that just is going to carve out a certain number of snaps. And yes, those aren't your primary passing downs for a back, but still, Quinn Allen is going to always sneak in, 20 targets, 15 targets, or maybe more. So that's just kind of my concern with the Jags backfield right now. But with ETN moving on, I do want to get some Tootin because there are paths where he can pay off. He does offer some explosive upside. I'm not sure if his total volume will be at a point where I'm going to be super excited about. Harvey, I'm surprised Warren is still going in the 70s. Like, I think Dowdle is a big risk to Warren's upside and role. So I just don't know. I don't know about keeping him up there. Like, I would like to see him fall. I mean, I think eventually their ADP should flip. Dowdle should be going ahead. But even right now, doesn't seem like a great range for Warren. Insane. I really take RJ, but there at 70 feels great. I think the Dobbins news should get him to fall some, and that's good. He was just going too high. Still maybe ends up going too high, but it's the same sort of thing. Like get him when he's falling, get him at the better price. Even if he doesn't fully pay off that, like he'll at least come close. Same with like Warren. Like Warren might not fully pay off pick 90 ADP, but if he's going there, at least he can maybe be in the ballpark. Right, so let's make these picks. Ricky P, come on down. That is no question there. I really take a lot of Harold Fannin. I'll go Pittman. I I just think he's going to have a pretty strong role in Pittsburgh. And we'll figure out the quarterback soon enough. But I think, like at this point, I think Pittsburgh probably ends up with one of Rodgers, Murray, Kirk Cousins. And to me, that's better than what's currently in Arizona, or currently at the Jets, or currently at the Falcons. Oh my God. Please tell me. And Buka just tweeted CTA is even real. Adjust your ranks. Oh man. I don't understand. Like, why would you tweet that? Like, why? Oh boy. NFL and the Bucks are not going to be happy. All right, let's go to the board. So Godwin starts moving up. I think that's a good range for him. And he start. So far, I haven't really been pointing up because I haven't seen his ADP jump too much, but I do think it's going to start. Just vaulted into Puka's tier. Yeah, I mean, look, yet everyone has their opinions and stuff, but some of these young guys, I mean, I think we see it sometimes from older guys also, but it's like, I mean, especially in today's day and age, like, it's like catch-22. Like, yes, you can say anything and it gets out there, but it's like, it's so easy to research this stuff, and just sometimes you need to put the phone away. Coming up here, got 1, 3, 4. Minshew just took his first quarterback with Jordan Love. Youngmula just took his first quarterback with Matt Stafford. Built out a Rams build. Grabbed 2 tight ends already. Trey and Warren. And we're coming up to Raitai's pick. He's currently 0-3-5. So Youngmula is a nice little Rams build out here. Exactly, FK. But Hulk says Bucks beat reporter says it's not his account. So who knows? Remember, Rashard Gary's account got hacked. Let's take Dalton Kincaid here. Get a tight end. Not particularly loving anything else here. So I think I'm just going to take Bo Nix. Nix has been moving down in drafts. That surprises me. Like, this offense is good. Their one big move so far was Dobbins, which only helps the offense as a whole. But it seems like Nix has been moving down the last week or so. Obert 23, good to see you. Yeah, I gotta start making fake player accounts. Mike Rob parody. Yeah, and Williams is right. All quarterbacks moving down, and I did think that that was going to occur as we start knowing more landing spots. Nick's though seems to be more surprising than some. Yeah, Williams in my first draft, I got Dart real late. Like I can't remember, pick 102, I think. My team's full of guys I'm underweight on, but sometimes you just got to do it. Yeah. Yeah, no, I do think the quarterback, get back to Haheem's point, the quarterback market will settle some, particularly once Kyler signs and or Rodgers comes back. I think each time we know a landing spot, we know where we can start counting to 32. Because right now we just still can't count to 32. And we still are going to probably have question marks on the Browns regardless, unless like Kyler goes there. We're still going to probably have question marks on the Arizona, on the Jets, on the Falcons. But at least you can make a more educated guess now. So I think that just helps in general. And let's look. Right, Ty saying this guy's he's underweight on. Start with Achane, Love, Zay, Mbuka, Marvin Harrison. Yeah, those guys I'm generally underweight on as well. Monty, I think that's a really good pick. We did see Kyler, really move up in this draft. He went 107. Yeah. A lot of chaos, not reliability. I mean, some I think in general with the quarterbacks, it is just like any news is pushing guys down and I feel the same way. Like I feel like, do I love Geno? But now it's no longer like, oh, maybe he's starting. Now it's like he's probably starting, right? So it just feels better. We'll take Concepcion here. I think I will go Sadiq. I don't think Sadiq's came to Denver, but that would be a fun unnecessary stack, or unintentional stack, I should say. I'm still a little skeptical we could see another big move down that actually sticks until contest lock, but it could be wrong. This chaos you may have missed. 5 guys doing a BOGO. Get in while you can, Steve. Damn, I love me some 5 guys. I'm definitely 5 guys over in and out, though I've only had in and out a couple times in my life. Where 5 guys has actually started in Virginia. Yeah, I see the Vikings are going to release Hargrave today. I think they're releasing Jonathan Allen as well. So they had to do a lot of cap work, but looks like they're going to clear it all out. We'll see if they make any big moves to replace those guys, because that's a lot of key defenders. They might be losing in. Both Allen and Hargrave may be underperformed, but it's not like they were bad. So will be something to watch for the Vikings defense as they try and keep up being elite. Minsu's now sitting at 346 through 13. Youngwilla 1552. He gets that Jalen McMillan pick. Minsu got Cooper. Those are a couple receivers I like. Kelsey goes there. Five Guys after party. Okay. Said that. We're out here food maxing. Oh my. Let's see what I can take here. All right, I'll take Mendoza, even if he doesn't start the year. I think it's a fine click. And why not pull up Aaron Jones with knowing he'll be back in Minnesota? I think his ADP will start to rise again. So that'll be good. We'll see still a lot of movement likely on the wide receiver front. Debo, Diggs, Juan Jennings, I guess, theoretically Brandon Ayuk. Still some viable receivers out there. And I think we could see some cuts like Calvin Ridley and a few others coming up. Tight end wise, it feels more down to Njoku and Goddard, so kind of the two older guys. Quarterback, we talked a lot, and running back with Jones staying in Minnesota, kind of feels like it's Rashard White. Not sure what else is really out there because I don't think Joe Mixon is real. Najee Harris could be an interesting bounce back guy. Antonio Gibson also. More like as an RB2, also coming off a big injury. I mentioned Jerome Ford before. I thought to Atlanta would make sense with Stefanski, and then Brian Robinson Jr. So that's kind of the running back market, free agent market. Not sure if we'll get any more cuts on top of that. So wide receiver market's probably the one with the most interest. Like technically Tyreek Hill as well, but I think my guess is that's something we're going to have to wait a while on, just given that he either just had another surgery or needs another surgery. Wait, Bucks tendering Sean Tucker on a 1-year deal? Huh. I mean, that was reported that they weren't going to. Okay. I mean, I don't think there was an official deadline. I want to see this. Let's see. See if I can find that. Aiden, who did you see say that? Because I just wanted to look it up. I just said, Gainwell I felt good about. And now I feel a little less good about. And also Bucky, it's like partly what I said about the hope for Bucky is him retaining the touchdown role. Well, now he might not even have that. So I don't think it totally takes out Bucky or Gainwell. But it is a concern. Now could be very much a three-headed backfield. Let's go Mitchell here. I think Rachel and Hawk. Oh, I see. Beat writer Rick Stroud placed an exclusive rights free agent tender on Sean Tucker. That's interesting. Curious how that worked, because I thought he was. Well, Rick Stroud, I saw it on Twitter. Bucks are tendering as a. It says, okay, I'm very confused on this. One thing said exclusive rights, now it's saying restricted free agent, because I thought he was a restricted free agent. And exclusive rights is an even more restricted free agent, but that one is your cap hit is, $800K, whatever it is this year. So that is, Sean Tucker is a restricted free agent. So we'll be interested why they, did a bit of an about face on that. Could be minor, could be nothing. Yeah, well, it's definitely not good for Tucker, but I think it also takes slightly from both Bucky and Gainwell also. If ideally you would have thought however many rushing touchdowns that backfield produces, it's split between those two almost entirely, where now Tucker could take 5 of them, 6 of them, like he did last year, where he had 7 touchdowns. Yeah, thank you. I saw Rick Stroud, more tampering. Harrison Smith and Hargrove both released. Tonjes just signed a 1-year deal with 49ers. Rick Stroud, NFL Stroud on Twitter is his handle. 2-year deal with Tonjes. Harrison Smith, I think Harrison Smith expected to retire, so that's not a big surprise there. Jake Tonjes signs a 2-year, up to $8 million deal with the 49ers. Report is Harrison Smith released by the Vikings. He hasn't made up his mind yet. Vikings would welcome a return, but if he's not going to directly retire, they probably did have to release him from a cap perspective. Yeah, Meg coming late to the party here. No, we talked about that. Should get 3 years, about K-Dot and money. That's a good move. Would have probably liked Goddard more, but I think it's a fine move. Running back is so super thin now. So we'll just take both here. Not that I fully expect the Achane deal, but Ollie Gordon, I think, is a fine click late. So Tonjes returns, gives them that Kittle insurance. And interesting, they went for a 2-year deal, so it seems like they definitely rewarded him a little bit. Sounds like the front office changed their minds, since it sounded before like he was being because it was tendering him would cost about $3.5 million. And I said this the other day, that is the tough thing with these tenders, restricted tenders, is it's just kind of a higher rate than cheap backup running backs. Like Pacheco's signing for like 1.2 million or 1.5 million, something like that. That's what Gainwell signed with a year ago. 3 million is what Dowdle signed for a year ago. Javonte was slightly under that, I believe. And that's what I imagine, Brian Robinson. Is Brian Robinson going to get much more than 3 million? Probably not. Maybe he gets 4. Maybe Najee gets 3 with some incentives. Some of the other backs that I mentioned will probably get lucky to get 3 million. So I understood from that perspective, and I wondered if they were going to sign him, like negotiate and be like, okay, here's 2.5, and then you have some incentives to get to 3.5 if X, Y, and Z happens. Yeah, okay, doing PGA research. Way to pay attention to your brother, Meg. Oh, I'm used to it, Mike. All right, coming up on these final couple picks here. I think I'm going to go 2 wide receivers. We have the free agency period about to officially start. I'm sure we're going to hear about a lot of releases, probably a few more restructures. And then I think it's, then we start to hear about some of the other signings and stuff like that. All right, a couple more picks, and we'll go over Minsu's team and Young Mula, I believe, is a FanSpeak member as well. We'll go over their 2 teams after we're done. So final 2 picks here. We need wide receiver. Let's take another shot at Keenan Allen. If we get news from him, his ADP could change quicker than most. Not a lot else to like down here. So I'll take the Chris Brazil rookie shot. So we're just 3 minutes away from the official start of the league year. Get on out of here shortly. And let me go over my team first. From the 12th hole, Burrow, Bo Nix, Fernando Mendoza. Got nice, little fall Nix, nice fall Mendoza, which I do think is going to end up being more what we see. James Cook, Ashton Genty, so at least a team correlation stack with Mendoza as well. Your FCTN, Aaron Jones back with Minnesota, and then Claiborne and Gordon rounding out my running back room. So went 3 heavy. Jones I now feel better about, and then 2 others late. Higgins, Carnell Tate, Ricky Pearsall, Michael Pittman, Concepcion, Adonai Mitchell, Keenan Allen, and Chris Brazil. So receiver, 4 in the top 100, though Casey Concepcion I think is very underrated. And the other 3 probably will need Keenan Allen to play. This is not the deepest wide receiver room. I do like my top 4, but it's definitely not the deepest room. So hopefully Keenan Allen is playing football this year. And then tight end wise, Dalton Kincaid, Sadiq, and tacking on Hawkinson for a 3rd tight end. Overall, I think that good value of quarterback, good, decent value, decent running back room. Receiver room is the thinnest. Hopefully my running backs are giving me more of my flex, the vast majority of my flex weeks. And I feel, I can carve out three receivers most weeks then. All right, we will go to Minsu's team, 3683. Jordan Love, Bryce Young, Cam Ward, 3 quarterbacks, kind of weighted, but then he tapped Love, Young, and Ward in that, mid-tier range. Saquon, Kyron, Henderson, Harvey, so went, very RB heavy early, tacked on Brian Robinson and Katron Allen. I think those are nice, solid clicks in those ranges. Chase is the alpha receiver, Jalen Waddle, Mekhi Lemon, Jaden Reed, so still 4 in the top 100. Jalen Coker not far out. Reed tied to Love, Coker to Bryce Young, and Cam Ward, you got Io Manor. Adding Omar Cooper Jr. into Tavian Wicks, another stack with Love. Barner, Helm, also with Ward, and then Pat Fryermuth. So late tight end room, but that feels pretty strong. Wide receivers, while it's more a little bit of an anchor side. I mean, Waddle's kind of in that topish tier, but got a Fallen Lemon, got Reed for the stack and everything. So overall, I like that wide receiver room. Iron Manor is he's just a free click right now. Can it bail? Yes, but right now it just feels like a free click, and I end up with a decent share of it. Young Mullah, Stafford, then Shador, Michael Penix. So, Shador should at least have a chance to start. We'll see what else they do. Michael Penix maybe doesn't start the season, but could be in there for a good chunk of it. But Stafford is going to have to probably lead the way overall. Bucky, Swift, Blake Corum, J.K. Dobbins. I like the Dobbins click a lot. We just saw him outplay Harvey up until that injury, so I think that's good. I think the fall in Jonah Coleman's good. Sean Tucker, now he's back in Tampa. Not sure what that means for his ADP. For me, I think it needs to fall, but he could just be a touchdown hunter. Double tapping Puka and Adams, double stack with Stafford feels really good. This is a very condensed passing offense. It's a great passing offense. There's just a ton of yards and touchdowns there that these two guys will get. Alec Pierce, as I said earlier, love his price. Denzel Boston, that feels good. Jalen Millen, really hasn't moved up much yet with the Evans signing, and I think he should. So I think you're getting some, closing line value there. Then Tesla, DK, Isaiah Bond, and Jahan Dotson. So throwing some late volume at it with some younger guys and Jahan Dotson, who might get more of an opportunity now with the Falcons. And then you went to two early tight ends, just stopping there, Trey McBride, Tyler Warren. I think you're going to dominate the tight end room in this draft. We'll probably need, those tight ends to take your flex a little bit, but it's a fun, different, more unique build. And good solid all around team. All right, we are going to get on out of here. I want to appreciate everyone for joining me again. Thank you for all the support, all the likes, all the comments. Feel free to leave a comment afterwards. I will be back tomorrow. I believe I'm going to do baseball. Keep an eye out for that. And then I'll be back tomorrow night doing football with Meg on Sibling Showdown. Let me just check chat real quick. Young Mula, the devious pick 237 snipe. No, good luck to you all. Hope everyone has a great day. I will catch you next time. And have a good one. Peace.